You are now tuned in to StoryTime Chill with Val and Sil. It's StoryTime Chill with Val and Sil. It's StoryTime Chill with Val and Sil. It's StoryTime Chill with Val and Sil. Hello, happy
We're back.
Wednesday,
Happy
happy Wednesday.
Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday.
It's story time and chill day. Story time and chill day.
That's
Welcome
right.
back, everybody. So we didn't have an episode last week, but we're kicking off this week, April 14th, very strong Autism Awareness Month. And the guest that we have today for you is going to be so amazing. So just wait on that. Just
Yes.
wait on that. We have today, of course, we want to make sure that you guys stay subscribed and in touch with us at all times. Val and I, we always have something up our sleeves. Like sometimes in the middle of the week, you guys, we're like, hey, let's do this, or I got this vision, I got this idea. You never want to miss out, especially with how spontaneous we are.
Yes.
So make sure that you subscribe at www.storytimechill.com. Also, like and follow us on Facebook, Storytime Chill with Val and Sil, Storytime Chill for YouTube and Instagram as well. We love to talk, as you can see, so
Yes,
we'll
we do.
definitely
Yes, we
keep in
do.
touch with you. All right,
Absolutely.
Val, who's our guest today?
Oh man, we have some awesome people. We want to welcome Tisha and Nicholas Glover. Tisha and Nicholas Glover, welcome to the stage. Hi.
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 Hello. Welcome,
Hi.
welcome, welcome. We're
Hello,
so excited to
Tisha.
have
Hi,
you.
Nick. Yes, yes, yes.
Hi. Hello. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, I am Tisha, and I'm a former elementary school teacher, a mother of two sons. My older son is Nicholas, and my younger son, Davis, was diagnosed with autism. And since then, I've been wanting to share our story, and we are sharing our story through this book that we wrote, Davis Speaks, A Brother with Autism, to share about the autism experience from the perspective of a parent and sibling.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
We're so excited to have you
Yes.
on, and we're so looking forward to it. So, without further delay, go ahead. Tisha and Nicholas, take it away.
Davis Speaks, A Brother with Autism by Tisha Glover and Nicholas Glover.
Nicholas, a friendly child, sometimes felt all alone because he was the only little boy in his home. One day, Nicholas got the most exciting news from his mother. In just a few months, he'd be a big brother. I'll have a best friend always by my side.
And then the big day came. Baby Davis arrived.
When he is bigger, we will have so much fun riding bikes, playing catch, and running in the sun. Every day, Nicholas tried to teach Davis something new. He understood that's what big brothers were supposed to do. I'll teach him to wave. I'll teach him to smile. I'll teach him to stand by himself in a while.
But Davis didn't smile. Davis didn't even wave. His doctor said Davis is developmentally delayed.
This was not expected. It was not in the plan. So Davis saw therapists to help him understand. With help from Big Brother, Davis learned how to walk. And Nicholas was sure that he'd teach him to talk.
Davis learned sign language and to use cue cards. Davis was trying so very hard, but not a word did he utter as his big brother wished. Then he was referred to another specialist.
The psychologist said autism is the diagnosis. His communication is different, I'm sure that you've noticed.
Autism meant that the family was extra prepared for a fearless little boy who tried anything he dared. But everyday activities were unpredictable. Supermarket shopping would become a spectacle. The people, the bright lights, the noise was all too much. And out of nowhere, Davis would make a big fuss. He'd cover his ears, he'd chew on his shirt, he'd squint his eyes as though the light even hurt.
He'd cry, he'd kick, he'd yell and scream. Nicholas would be embarrassed by the scene. But Nicholas understood Davis had no control. He'd been having meltdowns since he was 2 years old.
One day, Davis had the worst meltdown that he'd ever had. People stared and pointed as if he was just being bad. Nicholas was hurt by their attempt to cause shame. Couldn't that his brother was in pain? Nicholas hugged Davis closely and felt his heart beat.
Breathe, 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 little brother. You're safe with me. While some people only noticed the spectacle, Nicholas knew that this brother was exceptional. On the trampoline, no one could jump higher, a feat that Nicholas did admire.
He'd put Nicholas's trains in a perfect line, intensely focused the entire time.
He could climb trees to amazing heights, then relax on the branches without a fright.
Thinking of his talents compelled Nicholas to say,
I love you, Davis, in all your special ways.
when he looked into his eyes, there was no doubt he knew. His little brother Davis was saying, I love you too. And thank you for allowing us to share Davis Speaks, a brother with autism, with you tonight.
Awesome, awesome. Tisha and Nick. Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Such a, yeah.
Beautiful
Such a symbol of
story.
hope. Yes, so beautiful. Such a symbol of hope. Thank you so much for, of course, again, being here and then, of course, sharing just so much transparency with your journey with autism. We definitely appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So one of my questions tonight is, Tisha and Nicholas, what was your aha moments when you said, you know what, let's write a book about this? What inspired you to write the book?
Well, it's interesting. I had always wanted to write children's books. My background, I told you, is that I was an elementary school teacher. I taught second grade for quite a while. And something that was very obvious to me is that there was a lack in the market for children's books with characters who were young African American children. And I just remember as a teacher, whenever I found a book that had an African American character, I bought it because I said, this is so rare. I need to buy this and make sure that I have it in my personal library. And I realized that me as a teacher and someone who loved to write, that one day that's something that I wanted to do whenever I had the opportunity. And it was just one of those things that was always pressing me, but I never really sat down to put the pen to paper. Being home, um, with in the house with corona, well, not corona, but the pandemic has everybody in our house, in the house right now. And I just happened to be on Facebook one day, and I just saw this person who was going live, who said, have you ever considered writing a children's book? And I felt like it was speaking
Yeah.
directly to me.
Yes. Yes.
So I said, there's no time better than now than to sit down and write that book. And so, just brainstorming and writing down everything that I was passionate about. I knew that I was passionate about my sons, and then that our family situation is a little bit different because my younger son has autism. I thought that it was perfect for me to be able to write about my sons that I love, and at the same time spread autism awareness and acceptance.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I love how Tisha said there's no better time than now when we have so much time at home. Val spoke about time yesterday
Yes.
in one of our groups. And so, yes, there's no better time than now. Absolutely.
Yes. We have to answer. When God tells us to move, we got to move.
Yes.
Timing is perfect. His timing is perfect. What is the one message from your book? What is the one message that you would like the general public to take away from your story?
Did you want to go first?
Um, I would say that I hope the book highlights meltdowns in a not necessarily negative light, but in a more informative light, as a lot of people on the autistic spectrum can't necessarily control their meltdowns when they have them. And I hope that this book can create more awareness, as it in recent news, there's been the situation with Elijah McCain, where he was on the spectrum and he had a ski mask on, and that's um, when the Brutality Act was when it was acted upon him, and he just kept saying, "I'm just different. I'm just an introvert," and the situation hit me differently, because being that I have younger, uh, a younger black brother, it just made me think, he's on the autistic spectrum. It made me think that could have been him. So I hope that we are more easy to understand the meltdowns rather than be quick to be brutal or act uh, brutality in that type of way.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's
And
very important to talk about.
Yeah.
and for me, one of the major takeaways I would like for people to have after reading the book is just in life in general to choose compassion and grace above judgment. One thing about autism spectrum is that it's a wide spectrum. And so there are many, many different characteristics and traits that come along with autism. And oftentimes in public and in society, we're in places with people who may be on the autism spectrum that we don't even know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, with autism acceptance and awareness, we want just people to understand that before we make a judgment about the way someone is behaving, if they're behaving in a way that's differently than what we're used to, instead of calling that person strange or making a judgment about that person, choosing compassion. I don't know what's going on in that person's life, but I'm choosing compassion and grace over judgment that's something that we dealt with in our family with our son, who, even before we knew that he had autism, that in public he would display traits that were different from kids his age. And we definitely wanted to share the story about the meltdown because oftentimes in public, we as a family recognized that something was going on that was different with him, because whenever we would go into a place that was loud or that had bright lights like the supermarket, it would cause him to go into stress and to have a meltdown. And he was definitely in pain in those situations, but to people who are unknowing, it could look like a tantrum. And so sometimes we would see in public that people would choose judgment in those situations. And other parents will look at us as though our child was just misbehaving, when that wasn't the case, that he was going through a stressful situation. And so it's taught me a lot in that fashion as well, to just recognize that people are going through things that we don't even know about. And so in general, to just look at people and say, I want the best for them, and I'm not judging whatever is going on in their life. I just pray God's grace in their life.
Yes.
Yes. That is so. I'm glad that Tisha, that you mentioned just in general, just compassion and grace over judgment, because our show is geared towards children book authors, but a lot of the people that watch our show are adults and children alike. And so I'm even reflecting now, just thinking about, I'm pretty sure that at least 99% of people that's watching right now or that will catch this replay will remember a time where they may have looked at a child misbehaving and was like, oh, why they can't get that child under control? Or what's going on over there? Or just
Yes.
making quick judgments, even if it isn't a meltdown, or just because someone looks differently, dresses differently, speaks differently. So many times where compassion and grace were not the first response. And
Yeah.
so we just appreciate you for allowing us to generalize that specifically, to just sprinkle it all over life, just in general. Grace, compassion is so important.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Another question I have for you tonight is, so we talked about the message to the general public and people in general. What about parents with children who have autism? What message of hope would you give them?
Well, for us, it's been a beautiful blessing to have a son with autism. Um, what I have learned is to celebrate every milestone, to take the time to appreciate those small successes, even though they seem small to other people. To take the time to just appreciate every small step that our children make. My son, he's 9 now. He started talking when he was 4. So there was a time when we did not know whether or not he would ever talk. And so for him to have started to speak at 4, we're at a place where we're learning to rejoice with every milestone, no matter how small it seems. And
Yes.
even when um, they seem delayed by standards that are set by society, it's still a time for us to rejoice. And so he's really just brought so much joy into our life, really learning how to celebrate every word that comes out of his mouth. Um, he's at a place now where he talks a lot, and I never hush him. I always sit there and give him my full attention, because I'm saying this is a miracle. Every word that comes out of your mouth right now is a miracle. And I just have a greater appreciation for that, because it was something that, a blessing that we didn't know that we would ever have in his life. So I know that other parents with children with autism have experienced the same, whether it is them speaking or even the small things such as them eating a food that they hadn't eaten in the past, but just taking the time to see all of those as blessings and rejoicing with those small successes, it just makes the journey just more joyous.
That's so special.
Yes.
That's so
Yes, yes,
special.
yes.
Yes.
That is very special. Thank you so much for sharing that. There are so many people that have understanding of autism, and so it's so many people on the other hand that don't. And so we appreciate you sharing that tonight, because not only do we want people, the general public, to understand and know, but we want parents who have children that are special, that require special things, and we want them to also know that they are not by themselves, that they do have support as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes. And Val, just to even add on, even people that don't have children right now, but are educators, we
Hmm.
have some educators watching as well that's, again, just appreciating this conversation and thinking
Yes.
back on specific students that they have that they can
Yes.
apply these skills and the same grace and compassion with. And for those that do have children that need to just know how to interact and love on all children
All children.
regardless.
Yes.
It's a learn. Anyone can learn from this conversation, and that's why this is so special. So
It is. It is. It truly is. And the more I think about that, the more I think about how, because special education is my first certification, and I'll never forget my first encounter with a student, young man who had autism. And the thing about it was, I didn't feel like I was properly trained to even handle some of the things. But thank God that he had parents who were there, who told us everything, that kind of told us what kind of what he likes, what he doesn't like. And it
mhm,
helped so much, and it made me feel so much better as his teacher, because I didn't want to upset him. I just wanted to teach him, and it made me feel more comfortable knowing that I had the parents support. Talk to us a little bit about that. What is it like to be able to support the teachers, because we do have educators on our on today? How important is that for you to communicate with educators and to the school, to the staff, to talk about what to expect? What are some things that your child likes? What are some things that he doesn't? What are some things that you should do? What are some things you shouldn't do? How
mhm,
important is that to do?
It's everything. It's everything. Those partnerships are so important. In fact, my son was diagnosed when he was 4, and prior to him being diagnosed, he was in a preschool setting for children with special needs.
Hmm.
And it was his teacher that was able to teach us, because we weren't very well versed about autism spectrum disorder. And so when he just went for his regular checkup at his pediatrician mentioned, um, we might need to consider an evaluation for autism. And so the first person I talked to, aside from my husband, was his teacher. And his teacher said, I'm glad that he mentioned this, because it was a thought that I had as well. And so we should move forward with the evaluation. So that partnership meant everything to us. One of the things that I did mention was that he spoke for the first time when he was 4. I give a lot of credit to the teacher for that, because his teacher was the person who came to us and said, "This is let's try sign language." So we try sign language, and she said, "Let's try these cue cards with scripts." And so we combined the scripts and the cue cards with the sign language, and that's how we got his first words and his first sentences. So it began with scripts, but once he felt his voice and felt strong enough to speak on his own, then his vocabulary increased, and he was able to use words and sentences that weren't a part of his script. So just want to give a big thanks to the teachers, because we really appreciate you and your expertise, and we recognize that you're as important as the doctors, the psychologists. You play a vital role in helping us as parents to grow and be more aware of what to expect with our children with autism, and skills and tools that we can use as well. Now, as far as the parents communicating with the teachers, um, a child goes, well, not all children, but most children are going to go to a new teacher each year. And
Mhm.
it's very important that the teacher knows what to expect so that there aren't any surprises. For
Yes.
example, my son had an issue with elopement. And for those of you who don't know, that means children who just will leave. You look up 1 minute and
Mhm.
they're gone. And I think at some point in life, when he's older, he might be in the Olympics because he is like a flash. Like you can see him 1 second, and the next second he's gone, and I mean out of sight. And so that was something that was very critical that we had to let his teacher know about, so that there wouldn't be any issues where he would be missing from the classroom, and they get that type of surprise. And as well, those type of things that excite him, and the type of things that he finds rewarding. Uh, one thing that I do that is a struggle, given the pandemic right now, but aside from the pandemic, was even just society now, is that we're not allowed to touch.
Mm.
And that was something that's very important to my son. One of his teachers, well, not one of his teachers, but whenever we would have the comments about how do you calm your son, well, the way I would calm him is through a firm touch. I will hug him closely, just like in the book, so that our heartbeats are close to each other and that we could breathe together. And when we would breathe together, his breathing rate would slow down, to match mine, and his heart rate would slow down to match mine, and that was calming for him when he was really excited. And so I let his teacher know that, even though nowadays that teachers aren't really allowed to touch kids or hug kids, but I think it's still important to know that that touch is really important to him, and the breathing techniques are really important to him as well. And then also just knowing what things make him excited. For my son, he loves to sing and he loves to dance. And so one of his motivators throughout class was, his teacher would say, if you do this, then you can sing.
Yes. Yes.
So he would get through his task with the motivation of knowing that, if I do my reading today, my teacher will let me sing. Yeah,
That's
or he
right.
might let me dance.
And then, come on now. If and then, let's go.
Yes, yes. He would fit right on in with Val and I because we
Yes.
love music and love it.
Right.
So that would be great. I love that. The
Yes.
uses of incentives and rewards is not always, whether it's parenting or as an educator, things aren't always punitive. Right,
Yes.
so everything doesn't have to be punishment or no and don't and rewards and incentives and the things that get people excited are equally, or if not as more important than the punishments or the consequences. So yes, I love that. I love it.
I do too. And everything doesn't cost money. I think so many times when we think
Mhm.
reward, people think money. It's just like, wait a minute, just to be able to play your favorite song, just to be able to get up to dance, just to be able to, just do something fun or stand up or sit down, or it's just that kind of stuff is just what is really moving, and it really gets the children going. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
What would you all say, Nicholas and Tisha, what would you say has been one of the most rewarding things about writing a book?
Being an author, authors.
Yeah.
Um, I would say there's a lot of things that are
Okay.
rewarding.
Tell us a few. Share with
Um,
us.
One thing I would say in particular, um, when I told my teachers that I was writing a book, and my English teacher in particular, she's like, "Oh my goodness, that's nice as an English teacher to know that my English students are writing books now." And
Right.
for our book in particular being about autism, I was I was putting it on social media, trying to get people like, oh, come read our book. And one person had inboxed me and another of the black community. They were like, oh, this is such a great book, being that they were a person on the autistic spectrum. And they said books like that inspire him to go and pursue his dreams given today's climate. And I was like, you
Mm,
have to stick with that dream and make it a reality. And just knowing
right.
that I, as a 15-year-old, can inspire people, it's motivating moving force to wake up in the morning and come up with more ideas for books and just whatever life has planned for me.
Oh, I just
Love it. Love it. Love it.
15-year-old role
Yes.
model and inspiration.
That's right. That is so true.
Oof.
Man, that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff right there. And like we said, a lot of our audience are adults, so you're not only helping children, but you're also helping adults as well.
Yeah.
'Cause we need that. We need the
Yeah.
inspiration sometimes just to stay in the race and keep going, and
Yeah.
just to know that little messages like that, they mean so much. So thank you for sharing that. So my next question would be, Tisha and Nicholas, what would you tell an aspiring author, whether it's a child who wants to become an author or an adult who wants to become an author? What would you tell them?
Just do it. Go ahead and do
Yeah, I
it.
would say the same thing. I have a friend, and she's like, I have these short stories that I want to do as an actual book. I'm like, well, go ahead and do it. Like, all it takes is to start writing. One thing that one of my former English teachers says is the best way to get better at writing is writing. And once you get better at writing and you master that writing, you can make
Hmm.
it your profession, your career, everything that, builds your form of financial status.
Yes, I was very hesitant about
Yeah.
writing, just because I was nervous about sharing my words. I didn't know how they would be received. And what I want to share with any aspiring writer is that somebody wants to hear your story. If
Mhm.
God placed that in your heart to write, it's because there's a story that somebody needs to hear, and you're the person to tell it.
Yeah.
I've received so many people who have contacted me from all over the U.S. that I don't know, who said, I don't even know how they found my book. We released it in November. And so far, I've had so many people reach out to say, I found your book, and I'm a mother with a child with autism, and I needed to read this. I needed to read this story, and this book needed to have been written. So if God placed it in your heart to write, go ahead and write. Someone wants to hear your story. Somebody needs to hear your story.
Yes.
Absolutely. I was loving hearing the needs. The needs, they needed it. It was
Yes.
necessary because, and I say this all the time, but you never want someone else to tell your story. No one
Mhm.
can tell your story better than you. And so you have to always think about your responsibility, right? So who's missing out if your story is not told? Who's missing out if people don't get that testimony? Like, so many people are connected, their hopes, right? Their hopes
Yes.
are connected to you telling your story and sharing that story. So again, it's our responsibility to share our trials, but also our triumphs. And so just again, thank you for being so transparent. As scary as
Yes.
it is, jumping off that ledge, right? Taking that leap, but just
Yes.
knowing you're always going to land in safe arms, especially when you're doing what God told you to do. So,
That's right. That's right. Well, I don't have any more questions, Sil, because they answered all the questions I had. Do you have any other questions for our guest tonight?
of course. So, what's next for Nicholas and Tisha? What is next? You're an author, 15-year-old inspiration over here, amazing mother. What is next for Nicholas and Tisha?
What's next week?
So cute. You know,
Well,
there's
well,
something
we're
that
going to continue to write. This is our first book. We self-published this book, and we started a publishing company. It's Seeding
Woo!
Abundance Books. So
Oh,
this is just the first book for us. We
okay.
plan to have a coloring book and activity book to complement this book.
yes.
And we're also having this book translated into Spanish so
Yeah.
that the people with who speak Spanish who can appreciate the book as well. And we continue to write. So there'll be more books coming. We don't know the titles of those books yet, but we do know that this is a part of our future and we'll continue to move forward with this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Um, I would say the next direction for me, I do want to continue to write and really see where life takes me with literature. With quarantine, it's been a very meditational and motivational time. And I want to write more. I want to write more books.
Mhm.
Once I learn how, I want to possibly write music. I just want to do it all. I want to be an entertainer. I want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that's just one thing. I want, if somebody asks who is Nicholas Glover, that's an entertainer. Did
That's
any
right.
and everything.
Yes.
That's
Nicholas,
right.
so I heard you say, I want to do it all. Can I hear you say, I will do it all? Can I hear you
I
just say,
will do it all.
thank you?
That's right.
Thank you. And I'm just going
That's
to be
right.
so excited to watch that journey. So you just earned like two cheerleaders in addition
That's
to
right.
like who you already have in your corner. So super special. And of
Yeah.
course, I would love to ask. I have a closing question, but to your little brother Nicholas, Tisha, to your son, I'm praying that one day he's going to watch this episode back. What is one thing, or just some words that you would want to say to him?
Well, to Davis, he just brings Davis. You bring us so much joy. You are perfect. You were created the way that God wanted you to be created, exactly the way God wanted you to be created. You were purposed to be a part of our lives. You were purposed to be a part of our family. And every day I feel like you make my heart get bigger. You make my heart sing. And I just love you.
Sweet.
Davis, pull the mic closer. Davis, stop hogging the TV remote all the time. But aside from that, Davis, I'm glad to have you as a little brother. You wake me up in the morning when you turn the TV on and have it very loud. But it's also good to hear that music in the morning because it's a nice little motivation to just get up out of bed. Some days where you just like, I want to sleep in till 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But Davis has the TV so loud, I just have to get up. So I appreciate that. Whenever I'm down, Davis has that TV up so loud and just that motivational music, it just snaps me out of that mood. And Davis busts in my room at all the right times apparently, and he just makes me feel better. So Davis, Davis, I'm just glad to have you around, and I'm glad you're my mini me. I hope I just I wish the best for you.
Yes, I
That's
love it.
right.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to hear until this plays back. So, before we close out, I know Val has some words for you all. Where can our followers and our audience, where can they support you or stay connected to you? Whether you want to give us your website or social media, where would you like them to stay connected?
Well, you can find Davis Speaks, a brother with autism, at Amazon.com, also booksamillion.com, barnesandnobles.com, and walmart.com. You can stay connected with us, me at Tisha Glover author underscore, no, Tisha Glover underscore author on Instagram, Tisha Glover underscore author on Instagram, or Tisha Davis Glover on Facebook, or my website is tgloverbooks.com.
And you can find me on Instagram at the Nicholas Express. Um, um, I like trains, so that's why the
Yes,
Express.
I was like, that's so creative.
I love Thomas the Train ever since I was little, so that expression
Wow.
is in. You can find me on Facebook at Nicholas Glover, and my YouTube is also the Nicholas Express.
Perfect, 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 and perfect. And we'll make sure that we update our captions and our replays with both of you all social media handles and website as well. I just want to, before Val closes out, I just want to encourage people, but if they don't catch this all the way to the end, even if you don't have a child, or even if you don't have a child with autism, please support Nicholas and Tisha Glover's book, because you can donate it to a classroom, you can donate it to a community group, you can give it to someone or gift it to someone who needs it. So everyone, representation matters, and every child deserves to see themselves in a book. Okay? Every child deserves to find hope, okay, in something tangible. So even if you don't have a child, or even if you don't have someone in your home or family with autism, support this book, because I promise God will place it on your heart exactly who and how to gift it.
Yes.
Okay? Okay. Val. Okay.
All right. Well, it has truly been another again. Thank you so much, Tisha and Nicholas, for being here tonight. We appreciate your presence. We thank you for sharing. Davis Speaks, a brother with autism. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I would just like to close this out by saying thank you, Tisha and Nicholas, for helping us to understand that we should celebrate every milestone, every small success. Thank you for helping us to realize and know and appreciate teachers. Thank you for helping us to understand that sign language is important, that being developmentally delayed does not mean developmentally denied, for helping us to know that therapists are needed, partnerships are needed, compassion and grace over judgment. Thank you for helping us know that we should celebrate everything every day. Thank you for helping us to understand and know that we need to breathe together. Thank you for also showing us that singing and dancing is important to the soul and that age doesn't matter. Thank you also, Nicholas, for helping us to know that writers never quit. Tisha, one thing that you said was, you said if God placed it on your heart to do it, someone needs it. And that is so true. Thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. Also, thank you for reminding us that when we're supposed to do it, just do it. So thank you tonight, Tisha and Nicholas Glover, for coming on Storytime Chill with Val Sil. Thank you for sharing your story. Davis Speaks, a brother with autism. Thank you for the countless hours and time that you've put in. And we look so forward to all the things that are going to come from your book and from all your successes. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. And
Welcome.
at home, Nick. See, I'm gonna be thinking about Nicholas the rest of the week, because I'm like so hyped just about
I
everything
know,
that
right?
is to come. Not only for Davis, for Nicholas and your whole entire family, Tisha.
Yes.
And we just want you to know as well that Val and I use our active discernment when we select authors and books that come on this show. It is with intent. We hand select, we comb through so many emails and so many submissions, and coming across your book, it was just like in our hearts, it was like, okay, this is it. Okay, so I just want you to know just truly how unique and special you are. Again, you all at home, make sure that you support, if not for yourself and your household, but for someone out there who needs it, because many people
Yes,
do. Okay,
absolutely.
so we'll be back next
Yes,
Wednesday with some more amazing authors. We thank you again, Nicholas and Tisha. Please tell Davis and the family that we said
yes,
hello. And until
yes.
next time, good night, everybody.
Good
We had
night.
such an amazing time.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.